Hey, Greg,
Yeah.
do you happen to know there is a property for sale in between the library and the Unitarian Church? There is a big, huge lot
Yeah.
there.
Yep.
And then farther down the road, there is a little lake. And that, do you know if that is town property or is
That pond is actually, I think, of course, Mr. Taylor's changed it a few times. That may be part of the property for sale. Might not. I'm not sure where he's at with it now. But there's a conservation restriction on that through the NRT, that and much of the land is
uh
in the place for in perpetuity, right, Stephanie, if I remember?
Um,
Yes, the NRT restriction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
NRT is in charge of the restriction.
Well, you want to go for a swim, Mamas?
Is that
no,
Yeah.
I have on this YMCA group that we walk through town
Yeah.
twice a week. And one of our routes go through the back of the municipal pool there, through that pond all the way back to the Y.
Right.
We come all the way from the high school.
Sure. Sure.
And we don't want anyone to buy that and start.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, the pond is, I believe too, I believe some of the land on the southern side, so going towards the library, so I believe is part of the conservation restriction as well.
And the old building that is the small shack that is there or was there was the
It is there.
from the Mermaids movie.
I knew you were going for the share trivia. Can't get enough share trivia here at Planning Board.
Well, as we say, so this town is blessed with all these places where you can walk, trails and everything else. And I'm really enjoying it. I wonder if we make an effort to have easements and access and all that. So
You'd be interested if you were to read the easement, and see how that might apply to what's already there. And
Ahmad, yeah, if you send me an email tomorrow, we'll send you a copy of the conservation restriction and the map that shows where the restriction lies.
great.
it is interesting whether or not that provides for public access or not. It's sort of
I think it does. I'm pretty sure.
my non-legal interpretation. It was hard to tell.
Also, Thomas, if you go on the Conservation Commission website, there's a neat little page, I guess. I don't know if it's an app, but it's interactive map that shows most of the trails in town that have been mapped
Really?
on the open space.
I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah, that's
You
pretty.
can just ask me and I'll tell you everything.
All right, 6:33. I think we have at least four of us, right?
Oh, no, you have everybody. Deb's on.
Oh, okay. Well, good evening, all. I didn't.
Deb and.
There's Deb and Robert there. Happy New Year, all. And
Happy New Year.
this is just a reminder too. On 8 o'clock, 8 a.m. on Wednesday, we have our site walk. That's 20 South Street, and so when you pull in, right at the bend, there's a driveway into the house. I think we can just park along that and meet Mr. Humphreys and his crew. So anyways, without further ado, let's have our first meeting. Welcome to the Monday, January 4th, 2021, regular meeting of the Town and Easton Planning and Zoning Board. In keeping with the ongoing emergency order from Governor Charlie Baker to limit gatherings and maximize social distancing, and under legislation passed to address remote board meetings during the emergency declaration, this meeting will be conducted remotely over Zoom. Attendance by board members will be remote, and remote attendance shall count towards a quorum. The meeting will also be available on ECAT. While conducting meetings remotely, we will endeavor to keep the meeting operations as close to our standard operating procedures as possible. However, use of this platform will necessitate some additional meeting protocols. While the board members and applicants will be on video and audio, public participants, will join the Zoom webinar as attendee, meaning they will be muted and with no video feed from them. During the public testimony portion of the meeting, members of the public can be recognized by using the raise hand function or the Q&A function on Zoom. If you are joining only by phone, you can press *9 to raise your hand. There are further instructions and notes on the second page of the Town of Easton Planning Board agenda for tonight's meeting. So we'll start off to ensure we have a quorum. We'll do a roll call. Strange here.
Shane here.
Anderson here.
That's in here.
Kevin here.
Alsteric here.
All right, all present and accounted for. First up, we have two public hearings which have requested continuances to January 19th. Deja vu. First one up is 58 Mill Street, Owl Ridge Estates. If someone would be so kind as to make that motion.
Motion to continue public hearing 58 Mill Street and 5 Owl Ridge Road to January 19th.
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing
What?
and seeing.
Excuse me.
Sure.
The 19th, do I assume that the 8th, because that's a Tuesday, do I assume that the 18th is a
Martin.
holiday?
Yeah, next
Martin
meeting's
Luther
on the
King Day?
19th. Yeah.
I just want to bring it to everybody's. I may have to leave that meeting on the 19th at about 7:30.
Okay, great. Would you like that part of the motion? So we have a second, right? So all those in favor? Strange eye?
Shane, aye.
Anderson, aye.
That's an aye.
Kevin,
Alsteric aye.
It's unanimous. We also need to do the same for Sawmill Village, 560 Foundry Street, definitive site plan and special permit.
Motion to continue 560 Foundry Street, definitive subdivision and special permit to January 19th.
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Strange eye?
Shane, aye.
Anderson, aye.
That's an aye.
Kevin,
Alsteric aye.
All right, thank you. Next, we have a site plan for 33 Robert Drive.
And,
Oops, go ahead. I was going to say, I assume we have someone presenting.
we do, if they could just raise their hands so I can promote them to panelists. I know Aaron is one. Okay. And
Mayor Mackey, I have with me Bo Wynn and Robert Clark. Oh, I see Bo, and I don't see Robert Clark,
Yeah.
but we could get going.
he's there.
Okay, yep, there he is. If I could share my screen, that would be great.
You can. You should just be able to go to the bottom of your screen and click on share.
Okay, perfect.
Beautiful.
Okay, can you all see that?
Yes, I can.
Great. Okay. Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. My name is Aaron Mackey with Allen & Major Associates. I also have on the line with me Bo Wynn from Detroit Architectural Group and Robert Clark from our office as well. The applicant and owner of this parcel is MSCC Easton LLC, Manuk Demersian. The parcel is located at 33 Robert Drive, Easton, Mass. You can see at the aerial to the right there, the site is hatched in red. It is located down Robert Drive. There's Highlands Plaza located to the south, and Target and the Avalon Apartments are located to the north. So a quick project overview. The site is zoned Business B. We are proposing a 2,500 square foot coffee shop with 30 parking spaces, 2 ADA stalls, 4 time-limited spaces. There is to be 50 interior seats and 30 exterior seats, a drive-through with 11 queuing spaces, and a bypass lane is proposed. We had a special permit approved on November 17th to allow for the use, which is going to be drive-through facilities and outside dining. Moving on. So we did submit plans on December 11th. You could see they were uploaded to the database, and we did submit revised plans today, January 4th, and that was in coordination with some the staff report memo we received. Some of the tweaks we made from the December 11 drawings were bollards surrounding the patio space were revised to only have 6 feet separation. All plants on site were revised to be true native species. We have now shown snow storage locations, and we are gonna go over a dumpster enclosure, which Stephanie requested us to include, but Bo will touch on that later on. Some modifications we made from the peer review, the plan revisions we made some minor modifications to the drainage system outlet devices. And this was to increase stormwater infiltration on site, but the drainage systems remain the same size. We just had to make some modifications to the outlets. We have made some revision to the details upon their request. We also made some minor revisions to the drainage report, added the stormwater checklist, and revised the Mass DEP calculation. We are requesting 3 waivers outlined here. We detailed those in our applicant brief memo. I could read those in if requested later on, but I'll just keep moving on for now. So here's the existing conditions plan. You can see the existing site is a vacant parcel with mostly grass. There's some scattered trees on site. It's a 0.98 acre parcel, tax map 10R lot 214. Within Robert Drive to the west, there is drainage, sewer, water, gas that we're going to be tying into. The main access is from an existing curb cut off of Robert Drive located here. There's also access to the north to the target parcel. There is an operation and easement agreement in place to maintain that access point. Moving on. So this is the proposed site plan. You can see we have a drive-through proposed. There's 11 queuing stalls proposed. The bypass lane to the outside of that. The curb cuts are maintained in the same locations. The building is located to comply with all the dimensional requirements. We're going to maintain the sidewalk connectivity. There is existing sidewalk infrastructure along Robert Drive. These sidewalks will get you up to the Avalon community. Sidewalks this way will get you to Highlands Plaza. Also sidewalk connection here to get out to the target development. We are now showing the snow storage locations. You can see in the hatched areas around the drive there and here. Moving on to the grading and drainage plan. We're proposing 2 subsurface infiltration systems. You can see one here in the parking area and one to the northwest corner here. These will be corrugated metal pipe and stone infiltration systems. Pretty typical. We designed these systems to comply with all the Mass DEP stormwater standards and Easton local regulation as well. Moving on to the utility sheet. As I mentioned before, we're gonna grab all the utilities from Robert Drive you can see there is a existing force main stub that we're going to tie into for sewer. Water and gas are getting tied into here, brought into the site, and also the electrical is an existing structure right at the entranceway. We're proposing to grab the electrical service from. Moving on to the landscaping sheet. This was recently revised to be all native species. Some of the species you can see on sheet L501. So some of the deciduous trees we're proposing are red maple, birch, oak. Evergreens are white fir, American holly. Shrubs, summer sweet, inkberry, red cedar, and some ornamental grasses and perennials. Moving on. So I did want to touch on this slide because on our layout sheet, you will notice we only show 3 tables on the exterior patio right now, and that's because of this social distancing planning design. We wanted to keep the patio mostly open to keep, 6-foot buffers around the queuing for this outside pickup window to comply with, the regulations in the state right now for social distancing. And we just wanted to show you how we think it's going to operate next year with minimal seating out at the patio. But hopefully in the near future, we can fully fit up the patio with the 30 seats as we've included on the parking table on the layout sheet. So hopefully in the near future, we can get the 30 seats out there. And this is how on this slide, we think it could look. And with that, I'd like to pass it over to Bo, and he could speak to the building and the elevations.
Great, thank you, Aaron. Again, my name is Bo Wynn with the Detroit Architectural Group. It's a pleasure to make your acquaintance. It's been a great pleasure working with Stephanie. She really helped us path this process through. We were working back and forth with several Starbucks prototypes to see what would be a good match for this community. I think we landed a good aesthetic and a good functional building. I think it'll be an asset to your community. The materials composition basically are imported woods. You can see there's a couple different flavors of the brown and the gray vertical wood. They're basically what we call rain screens now. They're just a cladding onto the building that allow rain to pass through them, and there's actually a water vapor barrier membrane behind. And along the foundational element, we placed a lot of the brick because it's still a cold climate with the salts, with the winter conditions and snow accumulating along the ground area. I do want to draw attention to the plan. Aaron, if you could show that drive-through area, whoever has the anchor, there you go. Right. And then just below that is Starbucks has put in what they've deemed their COVID window, their pickup window to the bottom. This is a shell plan just to the left there. There you go. So that folks don't have to navigate through the facility. They can order ahead of time and then just pick it up at a window. So Starbucks has been very forward thinking on a lot of their new prototypes. Not to belabor it, it's a pretty relatively simple building with a little bit on the contemporary flair. We have an EFIS on the top, exterior insulation finish system on the top to give a stucco look. Just trying to break up a lot of the massing and give you a variety of materials. I think that should wrap. You want to go to the next one? I think we can address, I think one request was made on what is the dumpster going to look like? And we are going to do brick on block. The brick will match the building in color. And as you can see per ordinance on the lower left-hand elevation, we will do chain link gates with cedar slats. That cedar will then match the building as well, so that you'll get your opacity as required, not to see into the corral, the dumpster corral, if you will. If we go to the next slide, we can flip back to the site plan, but at the rear of the building, I want to say what, Aaron, the north side, the service area, if you will, the rear of the building. I think Aaron showed a screen. It's not shown on my plan. We'll go back to your site plan just real quick there. Yeah, there you go. So they just like the screen. We have coordinated carefully so that the utilities come in the rear and everything's hidden a little bit out of sight. And so we typically put a screen back there. That screen, go back to the screen, there you go, is going to be composition of the wood then to complement the building so that we get those little eyesores of utilities, meters, and utility points a little bit screened and away from regular vision. So, but with that, if there's any questions, Aaron, do you have any more to say, Aaron, or?
I think that's a good overview, and
Robert,
we can open it up for some questions.
Great. Thank you, gentlemen. Stephanie, do you have anything?
The only thing that I don't think they talked about is the number of parking spaces. So I looked at this because it is a sit-down restaurant. There are seats inside, and it's a drive-through, but the drive-through is generally a pretty fast pickup. So I just looked at the parking as requirement for the 80 seats in total for the restaurant. And at one parking space for each 4 seats, that would be a requirement of 20. The original plan I saw had 35 parking spaces. Aaron informed me today that they have 30. That's 10 more than they need. And if they were to reduce the number of parking spaces, it would allow more open space and landscaping, which I think further softens the hardscape out there.
Okay, anything else?
No, I think they've addressed all my other comments. Woodard and Curran did do the review, as Aaron mentioned. They did a very quick turnaround on that, as did Aaron in responding, but it's still, we just received that today. Woodard and Curran had a chance to look at it and confirm that all their questions have been addressed, but they haven't had an opportunity to really look at the detail and make sure that they're all correct. So that will take until tomorrow or Wednesday to get.
Okay. Board members, anybody have any questions or comments?
Can I ask a question? It's more a curiosity than anything else. Starbucks, do you have any consideration for energy efficiency on these buildings? I mean, insulation, maybe solar panels. Is that something that is coming to discussion these days?
Absolutely. Great question. Everything will be energy compliant with the ASHRAE code with the proper insulation in the walls and on the roof as required.
Great, thank you. Any other board members?
Question, Amos? I'm sorry to interrupt.
Yes. Is there lighting, kind of dispersed throughout the parking and the drive-through area?
Yes. Yep. I actually do have that sheet in here. So you can see the fixture, be dark sky compliant lighting. If we zoom in, we've run the photometrics to have all the paved areas properly lit. So we've studied that out. This is the fixture here we've gone with. And we've run the photometrics you could see below.
And the traffic circulation, do you expect it? Where the pull-in, can people pull in from both sides, but you expect it mostly from Robert Drive, or what's the?
We expect it mostly from Robert Drive. That's where most of the traffic will be coming in. I foresee this connection in the rear here to be more of the usage of the bypass lane. But I think the in and out traffic will be mostly from the Robert Drive connection.
Yes.
think the target entrance is where the fights will break out when people cut into the queuing line.
It's not really so bad though, pulling out of, you know, you would think it would be worse than it is pulling out of, say, like Hannaford's or TJ Maxx. So.
Well, this commercial center sets the record for curb cut entrances. So, so I just wanted to circle back. Or actually, I'm sorry. Are there any of the board members before I babble on?
Yeah.
Any questions or comments?
I just had a question. Maybe, I don't know if I'm just missing it because I'm not zoomed in close enough, but if you're, say, in the Target parking lot and you're walking on the crosswalk to the Starbucks, I think it might be like where that white car is on the crosswalk.
Yes.
And then how does one get into the restaurant from there?
So the main access to Starbucks is on this walkway that splits the parking aisle here. You're right, the crosswalk where that car is. And then we are proposing to reconstruct this sidewalk. There is existing sidewalk, but we're proposing to reconstruct it here, which will feed a crosswalk on site here. And you can come right into the patio at the COVID wick, or the exterior pickup window here.
So I guess I'd like to see some sort of delineage in the paving where it would be okay for pedestrians to navigate through the Starbucks parking lot to the, like, wherever it is that they are supposed to go to. And I'm not sure if the lighting is somewhat directional too, so that it's mostly like, I'm just not sure if the crosswalk on either the Target area or the one that would be, oh, I see. Does it look like you do have some delineage there in the actual Starbucks parking lot for the crosswalk? Okay.
Yes, correct. Yeah, that I didn't want to cut you off, but that color up plan was just an image we had done up today for the presentation tonight. But what we show on this layout materials plan that was in our package is how it would be constructed. And, you know, we do have, you know, appropriate crosswalks and ADA ramps to delineate where the pedestrian should be crossing and walking. And in the lighting, if we went back to the lighting plan, I can do that. You can see we are lighting the pavement in these areas to a sufficient level for pedestrians to see while they're crossing at night.
All right, that's exactly what I was asking. So perfect.
Okay.
I guess just one other thing, it's just my own, I couldn't quite read it. I think it might be on 103. Is there like a clean out, like, I don't know that you need a grease trap, but is it in the rear? I thought I saw something. Yeah, maybe there.
Yeah, we are showing a grease trap here. And that's for the restaurant use. That's typical for a restaurant. We'd like to run it through the grease trap prior to, and I believe that's per building code to have a grease trap for restaurant use.
I believe it's required.
Yep. And that's accessible via the truck, I guess, would be on either side, running whatever's closest to access it. Okay, thank you. That's all my questions.
Okay. Is there anybody else on the board?
Following Stephanie's comment, what is your take on swapping a parking space?
Well, I was trying to get everybody to go. Then I was going to go to address that in terms of the parking. So maybe I can jump in and then you can go again if you want. And I certainly understand, Stephanie, often we've tried to increase green space. However, I think looking at this, 30 spaces are proposed. 4 of those are earmarked for sort of special order pickup, for lack of a better term. And so when you're looking at it, it's okay, we're over a requirement by 5 or 6, but I think you have to look at how a Starbucks around here is used. And quite a bit of local businesses, self-employed folks, this chap included, hold meetings there. Look at the nearby one in Brockton, the issue they have with the parking. So I think if we went back to the landscaping plan, I think there's quite a bit of landscaping around the perimeter of this development, this portion of the development, certainly when compared to the Target parking lot and the Big Y parking lot. And I don't, 5 spaces, I don't see all that excess. Again, as I say, many people use this for a meeting space. So I think that's my 2 cents worth. And just a question for the team, the COVID window, for lack of a better term, will that survive the someday when we get back to whatever new normal is going to be, or will that be closed up, or what's Starbucks planning for that? Just curious.
That's a good question. I don't know if they would still then use it for folks on the patio for a walk-up window to order. But for now, I think they are spending the extra money to accommodate. Sure. You could probably close it up later and put some more storefront in lieu.
Right.
So.
And one last, just a question, the Starbucks inside of Target, does that cease to exist with this? Just curious.
I'm not sure, Aaron.
I know you probably don't have the lease
sure.
handy, but
I did ask the owner about that, and we can't really speak to that because Target is its own entity and it's private property. So, I mean, I do think they have some sort of agreement with Target, as you notice the Starbucks in a lot of Target locations. So,
well, as someone who called Starbucks many times several years back to try to get a standalone Starbucks, I was told that the lease radius was too powerful through the Target. So I'm glad times have changed. So anyways, is there anybody else has any questions or comments, or Stephanie, if you wanted to circle back on the parking? I didn't want to.
Well, the only, so Greg, I kind of thought about that because you're right. Most Starbucks are very active, very popular. And you do have adjacent parking in the parking lot, the plaza parking lot that, this is a great picture that Aaron included because I think I've seen, this shows far more vehicles parked in that parking lot than I think I've ever seen at that end of the parking lot. But, so, the idea of shared parking, but, again, it's up to the board.
Well, I would say this though, as someone, I frequent this store often, and I don't know why, but that parking actually is always the first to fill up. I don't really know why. So I know you and I talked about that, but and I certainly see there's an excess of parking in this entire development, but I think the Starbucks portion has done a good job of greening it up. And we have to think they are separate entities, and if we were to remember when we did the 55 and over and 5 corners, we were able to get an agreement between Shaw's and that for shared parking, but I don't know if we really want to go down that route here. Maybe a well-penned letter to Highlands Plaza asking them to increase their green space would be a better solution.
Yeah, I mean, really that, given that, I mean, the landscaping and the open space on this plan are better than what we usually see and they approve. And, I wouldn't want to see, I don't go to the one in Brockton, even though it's a mile from my work because it's too much of a pain to find a parking spot.
Oh, you think that's a safe parking lot, do you?
Yeah, I'd rather have them have a successful store here than, I'd have to, wouldn't mind trading off for a little more, open space, given that it's already a pretty good landscaping plan, and so that they can hopefully be as busy as possible.
So, anybody else? All right. I think we are, and Stephanie, we're all set with Woodard and Curran, correct?
Well, again, they just did a quick review of what was submitted to ensure that every one of their comments had been addressed, and that they had indicated that they had made the revisions to the plan, but they haven't had a chance to really look at it in detail to see if those.
Okay, so you were saying we can't act on this then? We need to wait till the next meeting?
Yes, and I had already communicated to Aaron that I thought that might be the case. And as Aaron said, everyone kind of cooperated on this, so to get it to this meeting.
Sure. Hey, this is the first time we've seen it, so I'm not certainly not We appreciate the work that you put in. So let's, I guess we need to make a motion to continue this to our one night. Will Woodward and Curran be ready by the 19th?
Oh, yes. Oh,
All
yes.
right. Someone care to make that motion?
Make motion to continue the site plan review for 33 Robert Drive to January 19th.
Second.
Any further discussion, hearing, and seeing none? All those in favor, Strange eye.
Shane, aye.
Anderson, I.
That's an aye.
Sarah Guy.
All right. I assume I heard Kedem in there. It's unanimous. Thank you, gentlemen.
Yep.
We'll
Thank
see you on the 19th.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. All right. Let me adjust my screen here. Boy, I won't miss COVID meetings. Okay. Next up, we have public hearing, 83 Depot Street, special permit in-law. Peter, do you have the notice to read us in?
I do have that. Hold on. Okay, Town of Easton, notice of public hearing. In accordance with the provisions of Chapter 41, Section 81T MGL, the Easton Planning and Zoning Board will hold a public hearing on January 4th, 2021 at 6:30 p.m. to be held remotely on the application received from John DeRosa for a special permit in-law apartment under Easton Town Code, Chapter 235 zoning, Section 235 to 44 in-law apartments, to allow the creation of an in-law apartment located at 83 Depot Street, Easton, Massachusetts, Assessor's Map 37U, Lot 7. This meeting will be conducted remotely via Zoom. The virtual meeting link will be contained within the posted agenda at least 48 hours in advance of the meeting. A copy of the application to end plan may be viewed on the town website. This notice is also available at masspublicnotices.org. Gregory Strange, Chair.
Thank you, Peter.
All
right. Is there anybody presenting on this, Stephanie?
I don't know. If Jen, are you representing the applicant? If you are, could you raise your hand?
I see a hand raised.
Oh, there we go. I had something over it. There we go. Okay, Jen, you need to unmute yourself.
How's that?
Oh, I can hear him.
We can hear and see.
This is my first Zoom meeting, so thank you very much.
Well, thank you for spending it with us.
Okay.
So if you would just identify yourself and give your address for the record, and the floor is yours.
Excuse me, I'm John DeRosa, live at 83 Depot Street, Southeastern Mass.
Welcome.
Thank you very much.
You want to put on an enlarger. So Stephanie, do you have anything you want to say on this before we dig in?
I looked at it in my report. The only real comment that I have is if you look at the elevations, and I was looking to pull this up so I can show the board. So the site plan did not show contours. Okay, are you seeing my calendar? Or are you seeing the?
I see a site plan.
Good, good. You can see there are no contours shown here, but if we look at the elevation plan, there we go. This is the main house right here, the existing house. And this, I'm assuming, is the breezeway that they're proposing to connect the new in-law apartment, which is right here, and the new garage. And you can see they show the grades here, and there's a significant drop off, I think, from kind of an overall exterior look and style. This is contextual with the existing home. It's just that on the elevation plan, the drop off really looks kind of odd. It makes the house look like it dominates. I did drive by the lot to see what that looked like in the field, and it actually looks much more gentle and kind of gently sloping down. But that was my only comment. I think everything else, they're in compliance with the special permit and the purpose.
Okay, so yeah, I think their designers done a nice job with this. And I like a couple things. I like how, as a board, you know, we've had disagreements before in the past. Many times when we see in-law additions or additions that are intended to be in-law additions, sometimes they're adding on, you know, common space. Maybe it's a mudroom, maybe it's a garage. And to me, when analyzing the maximum square footage or the 1/3 max, we need to analyze the final version of it. So I think in this case, you know, for example, the garage, even though it's attached directly to the addition, it could service both. So I think it's fine to call this a 600 square foot addition. But I am concerned. I think we may have, and I'll open this up to the board, but I get worried with precedent. As I view this, this is really two separate, this isn't an in-law addition, this is two separate dwelling units. I go back to how definitions in Mass Code, building code, but if just go in our bylaw, even in the case of we talk about, and I'm thinking going forward like this, we may need to change the wording of our in-law addition or our in-law bylaw, because this is the first time this has come up. But so think of it, so if we go to our definitions, a duplex dwelling, and granted this isn't proposed as a duplex, but as a two-family building designed with separate dwelling units side by side, separated by a firewall. So you think, for example, the one we had this past summer up on Center Street, you know, we made sure they attached for a wall. My concern, and it's not addressed in our in-law bylaw, which, why don't I, you know what, hang on a second, I might as well call that out. Bear with me here, folks. So much easier in person. Okay, special zoning. So, in-law apartment, there we go. So the in-law apartment will be a complete separate housekeeping unit containing both kitchen and a bath. Must be accessory to a single family dwelling, and only one in-law apartment may be created on any lot. And then it talks about owner occupation and things like that. So it doesn't really address, I think there's sort of a gaping hole, but my concern is, this is, you know, there's a roof that attaches these, but not enclosed space, certainly not a firewall. And I don't know if you got the opinion of the building inspector, but I would think this is two separate dwelling units.
Oh, I did, because that was another question I had, Greg. And I asked Kevin what he thought, and he actually quoted something from the building code that this is connected by way of the breezeway. So if they didn't have that breezeway there, it would, under the building code, be two separate structures as well. But under the code, if this were to come to Kevin and it met the minimum, you know, they weren't seeking the special permit for the larger square footage, he would approve it. As
okay, so could we get a memo citing the section for the record from him on this, because that concerns me that this, think of it, but a duplex wouldn't be allowed, but to do it this way, but an in-law would.
Yeah, and
it makes no sense to me.
We could, I mean, we can consider the special permit criteria where this is a small building. You know, the duplexes that we've been looking at least have been, you know, the size of a medium or a small home, whereas this is much smaller than that. So it's kind of a little, at least a, you know, maybe you consider a minor difference, but I think it's sort of a big deal where this is not this is not like a full-size home that just happens to be attached by a wall or something. It's really meant to, for one or two people to live in. I mean, it could be.
I don't understand. That's all our in-laws are like that, right? I mean, they're capped at 900 square feet.
Yeah,
This
well,
happens to be 600.
right. I mean, so basically, that's a big difference between the duplexes right there. But my point is that we haven't seen. When was the last time we saw a 900 square foot duplex? Per unit.
I kind of agree with Peter. We are mixing two things: duplex versus in-law. So the in-law apparently on our bylaws and regulation has a little gap about defining the connection of where is permitted to be and how. It doesn't say anything. Therefore, if it is connected in any way, including it this way, is acceptable because there's nothing on our regulations that does not permit that.
Yeah, it's a slippery slope. That's all I'm saying.
Greg,
I hear what Greg's saying. It really could potentially open up a little bit of a slippery slope here, because while it's a difference in, or there's a size limitation, the 900 square feet, I'm not sure that will make a huge difference in the long run. I guess the major limiting factor here is the commitment that, the owner has got to occupy one side. I mean, under the bylaw, I guess that's probably the bigger limiting factor. If I had to guess.
Yeah, I mean, I guess my hang up with, I'm not against duplexes to begin with, but my hang up with some of the duplexes that we commonly see are that they're basically two regular sized homes attached by a common wall or something, which I don't think, in my mind, isn't, probably what a duplex, should be in this town, but that's
the definition of a duplex.
Size, I guess. Maybe if the duplexes had a size limit like the apartment, then I'd feel better about them. But yeah.
Gotcha.
But I guess what I'm getting at, and I think what Greg's getting at, I don't want to put words in his mouth, is that there's the duplexes that we're evaluating are typically similar in size, and this is not. But that's a difference in degree. It's not a difference in substance, really.
This is the first in-law we've had that I can recall that doesn't have a common entrance or doesn't have that you can't walk in. And I'm not saying that, so, and I'm not saying these people, like I said, this is a good design, and the DeRocha family's been in Easton for a long time, and this is no knock on them. But I think we're going to need to, regardless of what we do tonight, I think we need to amend the bylaw, because this will get abused. This is
it's
setting a really, really troubling precedent.
No, I think that's part. You're right, and that's part of the point is that sometimes you have to amend the bylaw if it's not working, the way it was intended. Right. So not to run, people are going to start taking us to court left and right because they want their duplex to be attached by a breezeway, but at the same time, it could happen, and we'd want to address that quickly and hopefully not, cause too much.
The duplex language states that there's a shared firewall.
Right.
Right, Greg, and this is.
That's what I'm saying. And so so see how backwards this is? This building would not be allowed as a duplex. This is two separate dwelling units. This
doesn't share an existing wall, which is what I think you think of.
It doesn't share a firewall. It doesn't have to be an existing wall. Right. But this doesn't share any wall. This is two separate structures attached with a little flat roof.
I mean, Greg, if both you and Robert think this is too dangerous to approve this, then I'll just, I'll take your word for it.
Well, no, I mean, I don't. I'm loath to slow up. I understand what these folks need to do with their family. This calls out. These things happen now. That we need to amend our bylaw, because this was never the intent. Two separate dwelling units was never the intent of the in-law when we wrote it.
I know.
This is not accessory. This is two separate units.
And just to respond to what Peter's point was, I don't think it's a problem with this particular duplex necessarily, because I do think that, it probably does fit within the definitions as they're written now. And I think that the application here is supported by the factors that we would look at in approving the special permit. But I do agree with Greg's point that, you know, this could set up a slippery slope. And I think you were right. I think that the way to address that is not necessarily addressing it by, you know, rejecting this proposal. It's by changing the bylaw. I think it's as simple as that.
Right. And I think when we write the decision, in fact, Stephanie, I want to make sure I see this decision before it goes up, because I want to make sure, I want to add something to it.
Okay.
Just
Yep.
in terms of precedent, you know.
Yep.
Well, I just wanted to bring up that I think we did actually have a duplex on Hollis Road. The original design for it was, I believe, connected by just a breezeway. And I think that was one of the things that we had objected to, if you remember way back when they had first proposed it. But in any case, my other thoughts on this are that, is it 600 square feet max, or is it 900? I've heard
900 square feet max. It's 1/3. I mean, sorry, it's 25% of the building by right. But in this case, like a lot of the original house is 1,300 square feet, and 325 is not going to cut it. So they're requesting 600 square feet. That's why they're before us for a special permit. But the maximum allowed is 900 square feet.
And that does not include the garage addition.
Correct.
And so my only thought is that my recollection of when we were coming up with what that max number should be for an in-law, we were thinking about some of the larger homes, like 4,000 plus square foot homes, and what might be proportional or appropriate. And I will say the footprint of this house is, I mean, I don't know, Stephanie, if you can pull it up. I think it's almost the same, or possibly, is the addition even bigger?
Well, the garage they could build without a special permit, without even our input, really, right?
Yeah, no, the in-law footprint is smaller than the house. And more importantly, in fact, the reading of the bylaw, I'll call it out, says the in-law must be accessory. Any new separate outside entrance shall be located on the side. Where is the gross floor area of the in-law apartment shall not be greater than 25% of the existing living area, or 900 square feet, whichever is smaller. However, where 25%, a special permit may, well, it talks about, you can never find these things when you're reading quick.
I'm going to ask maybe a silly question. Instead of considering this an in-law suite, what if it was just considered a building addition?
So Chris, I'm just going to jump in just for a second.
Yeah.
So it says, so a special permit may be granted where the board, determine the apartment will be constructed so as to maintain the appearance and essential character of a one-family dwelling.
That's your.
And any accessory structures and the character of the existing neighborhood. So, you know, I think that, as I said before, I think the designer has done a good job in this case that, you know, to use the existing topo. You can see houses need a hierarchy. You look at this is a two-family, this is a single family house with, you know, with an addition, and the addition is you know, lower in the pecking order in terms of looking at this from the exterior, which I think is, you know, I think that's important. And Chris, but you see, you wouldn't be allowed, without the in-law, you wouldn't be allowed to do separate kitchen. So that's the difference.
Yeah. Really, if the new roof extended right, you know, closer towards the home, it would almost look like one building, but I mean, it would still look like two in a way.
Well,
no, I mean, I don't look at it and go, oh, this looks like two houses. I just saw this. I said, whoa,
yeah,
this isn't what we intended. And I could see this again, not with these fine people, but I could see this being abused, because let's face it, you know, the bylaw talks about you having to certify with the town and all, but you know, the town doesn't have time to.
I know.
We don't have the manpower to enforce all this, 365. So it's, I just think we're going to need to amend the bylaw. And it was simple. There needs to be a common interior entrance. I'll take care of it.
That is not an enclosed breezeway, right?
No, it's just a roof. It's a flat roof connecting the two buildings.
Well, I will say that in order to match the neighborhood and everything else, it could make sense to extend the roof and make it really equal to the main house.
Yeah, that's sort of what I was saying.
From the point of view of how it will look. And I don't know what is the difference. Probably they are saving some money to put just a breezeway that is a lip tax to the issue of appearance.
Yeah, it looks like due to the elevation change, that is just it's probably saving reasonable amount of money. I'm not sure about that, but.
I think if you try to connect this with walls, and again, I'm going to leave let the architects weigh in here. What you do is it might be more challenging with the grade drop to try to do that, and it might be more site work necessary.
I wasn't talking about walls, Stephanie. I was talking about just a roof.
But I think that is what that. We don't really see a good illustration, I don't think, of what that breezeway looks like to me.
It looked like a roof, a smaller roof.
It is
with a lower pitch.
So here's the thing: this is, best I can recall, this is the first time we've done an in-law that doesn't have a door from the in-law into the house. Now, our bylaw doesn't say that, but this is also that coupled with this is the first time that this does not have a common wall. This bylaw, there is no, this is the first one we've had, at least that we're considering approving. I don't remember Deb's, the Hollis Road, my memory doesn't go that far. But because you can see, because of the change in elevation, because the existing floor plan looks like there's a fireplace there's a set of stairs, this is how they chose to connect the two. I think, and again, from an aesthetic standpoint, look, get 10 of us will come up with 10 different ideas. I think it's a fine looking addition. That's in my opinion. Some people may disagree. I think it serves a lot of the purposes of the bylaw that we were trying to do. I just wish to me, it's two separate dwelling units. I just wish that wasn't the case. But as Bob and I have said, we can change that going forward.
Not to make light of it, but thinking of the Starbucks, the COVID window, sometimes separating the grandparent from the kids on the other side of the building actually might be kind of a new cutting edge on way to build an in-law, but might not work with a bylaw exactly the way we would hope.
Right, but
well, I think
that without.
I mean, most times, I've designed an awful lot of. I've probably designed 500 in-law additions in my life, and typically there's a common entrance a lot of times for emergencies. So it's
just so it looks right. So it looks more like one unit at least. But.
Yeah, again, my issue isn't with the aesthetic here. I think this is one of the better looking in-law additions we've seen, frankly.
They're always tricky, I guess, is the problem.
I'm surprised that this got the okay from the building department.
Greg, could you just read our bylaw again, and where it talked specifically about the common wall? I think you mentioned, or that part.
Bear with me here.
Or maybe Stephanie.
Where is it? Here we go. Okay. Well, so the common wall, that was actually in the definitions of duplex. So I'll go there. So I'm going to start with in-law just because I'm on that page. So purpose of the section to provide opportunity for family members who choose to live in close proximity but separate from other family members to remain in a family environment, to provide for the health and security concerns of elder or disabled homeowners who wish to remain in their homes, to protect residential stability, property values, and single-family character of neighborhoods, to make it possible for the town to supervise and monitor such additions for code compliance and safety. And the in-law addition will be complete separate housekeeping unit containing both kitchen and bath. The in-law apartment must be accessory to a single-family dwelling. So to me, that means that's where you have to have a connecting door, but it doesn't say that, you know, and only one in-law addition may be created on any lot. And then it goes into all the things the owners have to do paperwork wise with the town, which I'm not going to get into that. So then if we go to definitions, and bear with me here, I'm going to jump back. And so we go to the definition section of zoning. Excuse me. And okay. So see, like building detached, a building having open space on all sides, which to me this does.
What are you reading?
These are definitions of our bylaw. So then
But which definition are you reading, Greg?
Accessory?
that was building accessory, yeah. And now I'm going down to dwelling duplex. A two-family building designed with separate dwelling units side by side, separated by a firewall. And then in-law apartment. A building design, so it's first it says dwelling, single family, a building designed or used exclusively as a residence and including only one dwelling unit. So see, there's sort of there's some, right there, we're kind of, there's some contradiction. Dwelling unit, one or more rooms designed, occupied, or intended for occupancy as separate living quarters with cooking, sleeping, and sanitary facilities provided within the dwelling unit for the exclusive use of a single family maintaining a household. In-law apartment. An in-law apartment is a self-contained housing unit attached to or incorporated within a single family dwelling. So see, there's...
Greg, where are you reading that last definition?
That's in-law apartments in the bottom.
35-44.
Right, okay.
It says attached.
So the in-law apartment must be accessory to the second family dwelling and subordinate in size to said single family dwelling and shall comply with the criteria stated below. And that's, it refers you back. So,
it's interesting. At first, when I read that definition, this seemed like it satisfied the attached to piece to qualify as an in-law, but you're right. Now that I'm looking at the reference to attached under building in the definitions, it says a building having any portion of one or more walls in common with the adjoining building. I've actually I've changed my thinking on this. I actually don't think that this is considered attached to it. Certainly not considered incorporated within.
Right. And and I looked at it in a different way, but saying the same thing. If a duplex, we're already saying that this is accessory, not a duplex, right? Duplex is two separate units. So if this is, so then that means that this has to be at an even higher bar than a duplex, I would think, right? Or the same bar. So if a duplex has to have a common wall, and then what you just talked about, the open on all sides. So that's,
yeah, I mean, I guess maybe to consider attached, it would have to have a roof with all enclosed sides with, I guess supposedly living space in between within that.
If the breezeway, in this example, if the breezeway was enclosed and there was a door into the existing house, the point would be one of those would be a firewall.
Yeah. So that could be an unheated mud.
If you extend the roof, even if you don't enclose, it's part of the building.
Well, then.
I don't know, Greg. Even if it's not habitable space, is that considered?
Yeah, we don't have attached, I guess, as a, I don't know if we have a definition for attached.
Right, attached is not here.
Yeah, it is. It is actually on page 82 of 98. It's here, and I'll read it for you. A building having any portion of one or more walls in common with adjoining buildings.
Attached, huh? Right.
So if the breezeway becomes a room, it's part of the building, right?
The roof?
A roof and maybe one wall at least.
But it's, but it says building having any portion of one or one or more walls in common with adjoining buildings.
They are creating a breezeway, so that is part of the new building, and the side wall is common. You can interpret that way too.
Yeah. And I believe, Amos, that is how the building code or the building inspector is interpreting it.
Well, if we want to wait for the building inspector's interpretation, maybe that'll help us. Or do we just make a decision now?
Well, it sounds that the building inspector's already spoken. So, and regardless of what we do, if we vote to approve this as a board, we still need to change this going forward. It's the pressure that really concerns me.
I think there is more detail to that definition, because someone can interpret what you see here as attached to. So I think there is more, especially when there are things like breezeways. It needs to be specifically defined what that attachment means.
Be a lot easier if there were walls, I think. I think it's hard to say that this is, that they're sharing one or more walls in common with the adjoining building here.
So, but do you think we should continue and get an opinion from the building inspector, sorry.
I'd be in favor of that. I think at least maybe he'll have some explanation.
And if we can do a better job, if we can do that, go through that and talk it over and then do a better job on our decision, then that would just make,
Robert and Greg, could you explain what is a slippery slope? What can happen that will be bad? If let's say that you define a breezeway as an acceptable connection in between, so what is wrong with that? What is bad? What can happen?
Well, from my perspective, and I'll let Greg speak for himself, but I think that the concern is that you end up with two completely different structures, that, the connection is not a real connection at all, which is not the intent of the in-law. And I don't think that's consistent with the language either.
You get two separate houses, two separate dwelling units.
You'd have 900 square foot, there would be a quote in-law that could maybe end up having like a tenant in it.
And you think that the limitation in size that we have on the bylaws for the in-laws is not enough to limit. So if there is a separate dwelling there.
Well, that creates the other problem where if we think that these are going to be abused and that the town doesn't have the resources to enforce the in-law requirement, then maybe we just have to rethink the whole thing and how we do it. I mean, that's the problem, is like.
Well, yeah, but I think, but again, I mean, look, in-law units are one of the most popular forms that we've seen. They're needed, they're growing, and when they're attached, I think there's a sort of self policing in there, because people want their privacy. So to answer your original question, my concern, and not with these fine people, but just going forward, we see what we said. We know what people constantly want to maximize, their property value. So I could, think of how hard we fight to get a flexible development or some of the special permit things that we do. And so now I see this has always been the way laid out, even attached with a little roof with nothing underneath, and to the definition that both Bob and I read, this is two separate dwelling units. And that, first of all, that just wasn't the intention of the in-law bylaw. And that's going to be more easily abused than if it's attached with a common door. Again, and then there you go. I mean, that just doesn't match. So to answer your question, what would be bad about it is that, we're here to regulate land use, and it could start being used in a way we didn't anticipate. Not that we're always looking for, some of us on this board have been in favor of smaller lots and smaller houses, but done through stated means and approved bylaws past the town meeting, not loopholes. And I'm not saying that the Roches are not doing that. I just want to make that clear.
So,
I understand this is not their intention.
Just to speak openly, the in-laws go and they can rent this as a separate unit.
Well, they can't if you read the bylaw, right? They're not allowed to, but I think it's safe to say, and again, let's take these people out. Let's just talk about it, the two separate dwelling units How are you going to, the thought was when we wrote the bylaw is, well, okay, that always could be converted, and mom and dad could move downstairs later when grandma and grandpa move out, or, that's not going to be the case when they're not attached. But these are there's no common entranceway between these two units. There's no common passage. To get into the house from the in-law, you have to go outside and then go back inside, and vice versa. That was never the intention of the bylaw. Granted, it doesn't say that very well. We're going to have to change that. But that's what happens. These things come up, and sometimes there's loopholes, whether intentional or not.
It's very clear, as I said at the beginning, the bylaw is not working here, so it needs to be good.
I think it's worked pretty well. It just you had a little hiccup.
Well, and if these were duplexes or considered separate structures, depending on the proximity between the two buildings, those exterior walls potentially would need to be firewalls or rated. An offhand.
Well, yeah, but think of it. I don't mean to cut you off, but the definition of duplex is they have a common firewall. These aren't common.
And so I think the concern is that, especially if they're two separate buildings, there's not really any control over fire spread from one building to the other. Now, there is a specific set distance, and I was just trying to quickly look up, Greg, in the IRC, but I can't find it. I'm not sure what that minimum distance is.
Yeah,
I don't know if you want.
Well, I think it depends on the wall type, but that's that's not under our purview here, so I'm not going to worry about that. But again, my concern, Amas, is that even our bylaw, if we were thinking of the hierarchy, so we have single family residential, okay, then you can have a duplex, which is two separate residences that are attached. Then you can have an in-law, which is an accessory use to a single family. So going back to that second use, if a bylaw, if a duplex is required to be attached, with a firewall, then it would reason, going back to that hierarchy, it would reason that a in-law needs at least the same, and I would say needs a common door. Now we don't say that. That's just always happened. It hasn't happened in this case, and so I look at this. I say, wow, this is two separate dwelling units, and that's why when Stephanie, I'm not questioning the building inspector. He's much more versed in code than I, but that's why I asked Stephanie to get us the section he referred to, because you never stop learning. I was always under the impression you couldn't do this, that this would be two separate dwelling units. But that's neither here nor there. We still need to. But I am a little concerned, to Bob's point, that going by the definitions in our bylaw, I question that this is allowed. And the bottom line is we have to go by our bylaws. We're not allowed to waive bylaws. We can waive conditions, but we can't waive bylaws without a variance.
So what you're saying, Greg, this need to come back as a variance?
No. I think what I'm comfortable with, and I'll open this to the board. I'm comfortable with just getting a note from the building inspector in terms of his interpretation of this, and then reconvening in 2 weeks on this.
Yeah, I'm comfortable with that as well.
That's the best thing we can do right now.
That's good.
So we need a motion for that.
So the only comment I'm going to make related to that is procedural, because this concern, when Rob said earlier that he may need to leave early at the next meeting, and we have the special permit for, and not that I expect Sawmill to close at the next meeting, but it could. But this is a special permit, so you're going to need a supermajority. So
let's put this on first for the next agenda, which I'd want to do anyway, since it's continued.
Yes.
Yeah, because I think Robert said he's leaving at 7 or 7:30, right?
7:30.
Yeah,
I'll
so
be here for an hour.
we'll do this one first.
I'm planning to participate, so that's an alternate. so that you have the majority.
Yeah, I'll make sure to be there.
Okay, so did anybody make a motion to continue this to the 19th?
Yeah.
Motion to continue the public hearing until the 19th.
With the
Second.
help from the building inspector.
Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none. Okay, all those in favor, Strange eye.
Jay and I.
Can I?
Anderson, I.
Stetson, aye.
All right, that's unanimous. Thank you. And thank you to the DeRosas. Sorry we couldn't wrap it up tonight, but we'll reconvene on the 19th.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah,
Oh, don't leave meeting. I almost hit the wrong thing. Okay. Hold on, I'm looking for the agenda. I have way too many screens open.
yeah.
Okay, here we go.
Sorry, I can go back to it.
Meeting minutes. Did anybody review them?
I did.
I did too. No, I found nothing.
Peter, any changes?
The DeRoches, if you could leave the meeting, that would be great.
Checking what out, leave meeting. Leave. Bye-bye.
What's that?
Yes, yeah, I did review the minutes. No changes. So.
And did you submit an addendum? Did you have any changes? That's my. I'm trying to be funny.
For our 16-minute meeting.
I know that was pretty good, huh, man? Okay, so I will entertain a motion on the minutes.
Motion to approve the minutes for December 28th.
Second.
All those in favor, Strange eye.
Jay and I.
Anderson, I.
Stetson, aye.
KMI.
Balsaric, aye.
All right. So just a reminder. So is there anybody that's not going on Wednesday morning to the site walk? I can't recall.
It's 8 to 9.
It's 8 o'clock at 20 South Street. Okay.
I'll be there.
We'll see you all there. I think we're set. Stephanie, do you have anything else? We good?
No, that's it.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody. Who wants to close us out?
Motion to adjourn. Second.
All those in favor. Did you second your own motion? You can't do that.
I
Peter got it.
I thought Chris Nelson, so I gave him the.
We both did both.
Suzanne, make us look legal.
Second.
Did
then.
you second?
All right. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you Wednesday morning. Have a great night.
Bye-bye.
Good night.